Howdy folks, and welcome to another Taste of Gameplay video, this time with the Italian Tier 10 Premium Battleship, the Ruggiero di Lauria. As always, these videos are designed to give you a sample of the gameplay of the ship, not to be an exhaustive analysis. I recommend the Wargaming Wiki or other content creators. So there was a time when this ship came out when I remember it was all the rage. Everybody was really excited about it because it has this enormous array of 457 millimeter armor piercing guns, 8 of them, very accurate. It's kind of like a much better armored Tsurugi at tier 10, but with sap shells with a huge alpha, 16,600. Now, over time, I think the ship has been a little bit power crept. Some of the enthusiasm went away. People realize that there are some downsides to the ship and even to the guns, but it's kind of been forgotten a little bit, and you can still have some really great games in the Lauria. And I'm going to have a pretty good one here. Something like 140,000 damage and 3 kills. So this ship is fairly mediocre in most respects, except for the guns. And I don't mean mediocre in a bad way. I mean, the armor is solid for a tier 10 battleship. No, nothing wrong with it. Not a huge tank, not a brawling ship, but you know, it's not going to let you down. The heals are perfectly fine. They're very average and normal. It's got a spotting aircraft. The range on the guns is really low for tier 10. Which is usually okay, especially because of the spotting aircraft. So it really winds up being all about these guns. So we should talk about the guns. We've talked a lot about semi-armor piercing, but it's usually been more of a low caliber sap. This is, I think, the highest caliber sap in the game. There's a couple ships with 457 millimeter sap now, I think, but there's not very many. This is one of the only ones. And you only get 8 of them. But the reload's not bad. Actually, it's pretty good. It's like I've got it down to 26 seconds. And the dispersion is really good. You're going to see a few shots here. I mean, of course, the dispersion control you because it's still a battleship. It's 1.8 Sigma. But, you know, you get some trolley shots in. But one advantage to SAP is that SAP doesn't much care, except for the dead center of battleships sometimes. It doesn't really care where it lands. It's not as important that you hit the superstructure. So a little bit of dispersion happening to your shells doesn't matter as much as it does with, say, you know, AP. And these shells, I mean, they pen 114 millimeters of armor. They're really good. You can count on them. They do reliable damage. And every now and then they just do like mystical sap damage where you launch a salvo and you get like 12K, 15K damage, and you're not even entirely sure where it came from, which is definitely going to happen in this game. There's still sap overmatch. So because they're 457s, they overmatch everything up to 31 millimeters, even though they're sap. So, you know, even sap has small ricochet angles, but if you overmatch, you don't even have to worry about those. Like, you cannot ricochet. They're just going to pen straight through. And, yeah, I mean, it's really amazingly effective against certain ships, especially light cruisers, lightly armored cruisers, honestly, most cruisers, except for really heavily armored ones. Battleships, if you can hit their superstructure or their deck armor or their bow or their stern, I mean, really anywhere except their side plating, you're just going to do a ton of damage. Close range, medium range, long range, it almost doesn't matter. It's just really consistent damage output from these guns. If you can keep this ship alive and get it into positions where it can do damage with the main guns, I mean, you're golden. Even the secondaries, you're going to see I'm going to get them firing here against this Los Andes. I mean, I certainly wouldn't spec into them or count on them or anything, but their SAP secondaries, they go out to 8 kilometers and they pen 38 and they do really good damage, kind of like a Napoli. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds weird to say it now because there was so much hype about the Lauria when it came out, but I honestly feel like the Lauria is kind of underrated these days. I'm not saying it's like an S tier battleship. You can see me aiming for the kind of less armored portions of the ship. That wasn't a particularly good salvo. The next one's going to be a lot better. But yeah, I mean, you can get some really good damage in on this thing. And you see, I mean, I'm tanking this Los Andes pretty well. He's not going to get that much. He's going to get one good shell in at the end. I don't know if it's a Citadel, but he's going to get some pretty good damage at the very end. But yeah. Yeah, 3 pens, 12,000 damage. I mean, you know, not bad, right? 1 turret. No, 2 turrets. Two double turrets. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. You got one good solid smack in on me. But I still think I came out way better in that little duel. Yeah. And she's super fast. I mean, of course, these days there's a lot of battleships that are fast, but she's definitely one of them. I think I'm going to make it up to 40 knots with Brisk. So it's really easy to reposition around the map. Yeah, I mean, I like the Lauria. I don't think it's a great ship. I mean, these days it feels like tier 10 ships need some kind of gimmick. And I mean, I guess it's SAP. I guess the gimmick on the Lauria is the semi-armor piercing. If you're a semi-armor piercing expert, then, you know, you're going to have a lot of fun in this ship. That was another 12,000 damage salvo. Of course, I'm way too broadside to some of those battleships over there. Not really paying attention. I'm going to take a pretty solid smacking. Yeah, right there. Yep. So, I mean, she's not invincible, but then, of course, you know, nobody is. Watch these salvos on this Cleveland. Watch this poor Cleveland. I think I overmatched this Cleveland, and this is going to be vicious. Ooh. Yeah, 15,000 from 2 turrets. Those are only half my guns. Here comes the other half. I mean, you can easily deb strike cruisers with this SAP. Easily. Okay, well, that wasn't so good. Maybe this. Front guns, best guns. Come on. Take him out. Yeah, there we go. Another 6,000 damage. 2 penetrations. Up to 93k. 2 kills. You know, pretty effective game. Granted, this is a little bit of a blowout, but, you know. You don't always get to push right up through the center in a game of World of Warships, so you might as well enjoy it while you can, right? Anyway, do I recommend you pick up the Lauria? I mean, she's expensive, right? I think she's still costs a lot of steel, so, you know, these days there's a lot of great options. It may not be worth it for you, but if you have the Lauria, or if you really like SAP, I mean, of course, you know, the 900-pound elephant in the room these days is the Colombo, which is absolutely insane and undoubtedly a better pick right now in this meta. But if you don't want the Colombo for some reason, and you want to pay a bunch of resources, then, you know, I can recommend the Lauria. If they ever nerf the Colombo, the Lauria might be more competitive. But yeah, I feel bad for the poor Lauria. I think it's actually a really good ship. Just got a little overshadowed and a little power crept. But I enjoy playing her whenever I get the chance. Get in some really good salvos. I think I'm going to do some pretty wicked damage to this Amagi coming around the corner. The shell trajectories are really good too. Oh yeah, this salvo. Look at that dispersion. Look at that. Look at that. Ooh, 12,000 from one set of 4 shells, you know? Nuts. And that's because the alpha is 16,600 and because, you know, SAP is just insane. I don't know if I'm going to kill this Amagi. I don't think I am. The game's going to be over here pretty soon. We're actually going to point them out, which I guess means this basically is technically a blowout if you get the other team down to 0 points. But yeah, I have fun in the Lauria. Not every game. You know, the problem with the Lauria is sometimes you just, I mean, it is a little power crept. You just end up in situations where your SAP doesn't work, and you know, you really can't push any more than you can in any battleship these days. You do have AP. I never used it in this game, but I probably should have. I had a couple of solid broadside shots. Oh man, look at that Aki. Wow, that was so much damage into that Amagi. Oh, maybe I'm going to get the kill. Only 1 pen. Yeah, so 130,000, 3 kills. Man, I never even used 3 of my heals. I only used 2 heals, and I only used 1 spotting aircraft. But anyway, that's the Lauria. I actually think it's a really good ship. Yeah, I always really enjoy playing her. So check her out if you want to fire some 457 saps. And I will see you guys in the next one.